Hello, everybody. It's time. It's the NFL Predictions Week on the NW Sportscast. We're keeping it going with my 2023 NFL Head Coach Rankings. Let's jump right into it. Coming at number 32, Jonathan Gannon of the Cardinals. First season in the league. He's young. He was the Eagles' defensive coordinator. They did go to the Super Bowl, but, not a lot to love here. Matt Eberflus coming in number 31. I had him ranked at 32 last year, so he jumps up by one spot. I'm not a believer in Matt Eberflus. He was 3-14 last year, and I don't think his team has improved very much. He was the defensive coordinator for the Colts. I don't love the fact that he's a defensive coordinator and his defense is not good. Number 30, DeMeco Ryans. I'm excited to see how the Texans play with DeMeco Ryans as their new head coach. Obviously, he's young, and he did play for the Texans as a Pro Bowl level linebacker. Also was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. He studied under Robert Saleh, also studied under Kyle Shanahan, but he is another defensive coach. So, again, 3 straight defensive coaches at the bottom of our list here, and we're in a time where offense is the way to go in coaching. I'm not sure why all 3 of these teams have recently hired these defensive guys. Hopefully it works out, but I'm not sold on DeMeco Ryans yet, but it will be interesting to watch. Number 29, Shane Steichen, our first offensive coach for the Indianapolis Colts. He was the other Philadelphia coordinator. Both Philadelphia coordinators lost. He's 38, so very young. And he has been the coordinator for the Chargers and Eagles, so he's ran good offenses before. Now it's time, can he manage Anthony Richardson's offense? I'm not sure if he can, but we'll see. Number 28, I have Arthur Smith. He drops 3 spots. Last year I had him at 25. Look, he has to prove he can win. 14-20 is not going to cut it. I did not agree with the decision to play Marcus Mariota for the first 14 weeks of the season. I thought they should have benched him after week 7 because now we end up with the dilemma of Desmond Ritter's only played 4 games. We don't know if the kid can play or not, but what it prevented them from doing was it prevented them from getting a decent draft pick and then spending it on a quarterback. So instead, you go into this season with a big question mark at quarterback, whereas you could have had more answers if you hadn't have started Mariota the whole season. So yeah, just not sold on this guy. He's meant to be an offensive guru. The Falcons haven't had a good offense in a while. Number 27, Dennis Allen. He jumps up by 2 spots. He was ranked 29th. Obviously, the record's not great. 15-38, 3 years in Oakland, and now this is going to be his second with the Saints. But he has a good experience as a defensive coordinator, and he is good at getting the Saints. The Saints had a great defense last year. They're going to have a great one this year as well, so that's good. He's good at what he's good at. Also, I moved him up a couple spots from last year because I was impressed that the fact that the Saints won 7 games with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I did not expect to see that. I didn't think Andy Dalton was going to win 7 games. I honestly thought that he was completely washed, and it turns out he went 500. So maybe Dennis Allen not as bad as we think. We'll see how it works out with Derek Carr. Number 26, I have Josh McDaniels on the Raiders. He moves up by 1 spot from last year. This is going to be his second year. Obviously, 17-28. He coached Denver, got fired, but offensive coordinator for the Patriots, and he won like 3 Super Bowls as their OC. So I'm not sure yet about Josh McDaniels. I think they need to give him 1 more year. If it doesn't work with Jimmy G, then I think McDaniels should get fired because Jimmy G is a guy who is a career winner. He won 75% of his games. If McDaniels can't succeed with Jimmy G at quarterback, I don't know if he should be the coach. Number 25, I have Todd Bowles. He falls 3 spots. I had him at 22 going into the season. Now he's at 25. Why did he drop? Well, it's pretty simple. When you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you should win at least 1 playoff game, and he failed to do that. Buccaneers, not only did they fail to win, they got clobbered by a Dallas Cowboys team that I think a lot of people viewed as inferior. He also wasn't a great coach for the Jets. He only has 2 winning seasons out of 5. But he does have 2 winning seasons, and he was the defensive coordinator for a Super Bowl team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, again, he could be good. Interesting to see how it works with Baker and Kyle Trask. I don't believe in the Bucs this year, as you guys probably know. Number 24, it pains me to put him this low, Mike McDaniel. Look, he had a winning record, 9-8, but I believe the Dolphins underperformed last year. I thought the decision-making surrounding Tua's injury was terrible, and I am not sure if Mike McDaniel always has his head in the game. Clearly, he's an offensive genius. We saw it with San Francisco. We saw it last year with Miami. This is what I don't understand about Mike McDaniel. He makes baffling decisions. I know he's funny. Even the picture says he's funny in press conferences. In a head coach, I'm not looking for funny. I'm looking for results, and he doesn't deliver results. He delivered a 9-8 wild card, barely make the playoffs, and lose with a third-string quarterback. Look, I mean, there's reports that he may or may not have been vaping on the sidelines. He's not professional right now. I think he needs to learn some professionality. Maybe he can improve on the list. We'll see. Number 23, I have Frank Reich on the Panthers. Look, he was 16th last year. Career winning record in, I believe, in 5 years as a coach. He also was an offensive coordinator for an Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl. He's good. He's very good with quarterbacks, especially. He's worked well with Carson Wentz. He worked well with Phillip Rivers. I think he's going to be good for both Dalton and Bryce Young over with the Colts. But here's what worries me with Frank Reich. Only one playoff win, and he's had some very good Colts teams under his belt. And also, you know, the guy did just get fired. So, good for him for getting rehired so quickly. Not sure how it's going to work out for him. He just got fired. That's why he's out of the top 20. Number 22, we have Brandon Staley on the Chargers. He drops 3 spots because I believe that may have been the most embarrassing playoff game of all time. They blew a 28-0 lead in the playoffs, and I have no faith in this guy, Brandon Staley. Look, I know he has a 19-15 record, back-to-back winning seasons. He also has Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. He has Mike Williams, Joey Bosa. He has enough talent on his team that they should be a winning team. And I think that 19-15 is probably a lot worse than the Chargers could have done with a better head coach. So I do not believe in Brandon Staley. And again, a defensive guy on a team in a division where offense is so important. I have yet to see the Chargers defense prove anything in a big game, and Brandon Staley is meant to be a defensive coach. At number 21, we have Robert Saleh on the New York Jets. He moves up by 10 spots. That's a huge jump from last year. I did not believe in him last year. I do now. Why do I believe in him now? Well, it's simple. Last year, the Jets, while they weren't great, they did finish the season on a 7-game losing streak. That was with some injured quarterbacks and quarterback issues. So what Robert Saleh did was he coached their defense with a bunch of young, rookie, second-year, third-year players and made their defense really, really special. They had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year last year. That's important. That's a lot of what has to do with coaching. And somehow he managed to convince Aaron Rodgers. So the record's not great, but I think Robert Saleh and the Jets are on the big up and up this year. But here's what I want to look at. So the past 12 coaches, how many are defense? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 of the bottom 12 are defense. We're going to look at the next 20. We'll look at the next 10 and see how many of them are defense. We start with a tight end in Dan Campbell, 20. Lions, he moves up by 4. I'm still not sold on Dan Campbell as a head coach, but he's not on the hot seat for now because the Lions are supposed to be good. Still has a losing record as a coach, but clearly he inspires his team. You saw the finish that the Lions did last year. Very impressive stuff. So I'm excited to see what Dan Campbell can do this year. If the Lions are good, like many people think, he can make a big jump up this list next year. For 19, I have Kevin O'Connell. I had him at 28th last year. He moves up to 19, so he jumps up by 9 spots. And that's what finishing 13-4 will do to you. Obviously, they got upset in the playoffs by the Giants in a heartbreaker. But I think Kevin O'Connell is a rising young coach. He's only 38. He has good experience, right? He took the Rams offense to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. He also was a backup quarterback to Tom Brady, so he has a lot of knowledge, especially on the offensive side of the football. I think that's huge, especially working with a guy like Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson. This is a team that is offense first, and they showed that last year. They did get lucky. I will say this. The Vikings got very lucky in a few of their wins. So I'm not sure if it was all O'Connell's doing, but I think, again, if the Vikings play well, O'Connell could definitely be a top 10 coach pretty soon, but he's at 19 for now. Number 18, we have Brian Daboll on the New York Giants. Again, another offensive guy. So we're starting to see these offensive coaches come into the picture here. 9-7-1 in his first year as a coach. They win a game in the playoffs in an upset. He was the Bills' offensive coordinator as well as the Chiefs, Browns, and Dolphins' offensive coordinator. And last year was the coach of the year. He also has been the assistant coach of the year when he was with the Bills. So this guy has the accolades, has the experience, and now he has his first solid season to prove it. Here's why he's only at 18. Look, the Giants never felt like a truly good team last year. They never felt like a truly dominant team. Maybe that's a credit to him, maybe not. He's only been 1 year. I want to see what it looks like in year 2. Again, a lot of these coaches are new, kind of new to the picture. These guys can be showing huge jumps this year if they stick at it. Number 17, Matt LaFleur, another guy who comes from the Rams, offensive coordinator. He was the coach when Jared Goff was there. So it was O'Connell with Stafford, it's LaFleur with Goff, and then it also was with the Titans. Matt LaFleur has a very good record, 47-19. He's made the playoffs 3 times, won a couple playoff games. Here's why he's so low. Here's why he's at 17 and why he dropped by 5. I believe that Matt LaFleur was incredibly Aaron Rodgers dependent as a head coach. I have no idea what it's going to look like without Aaron this year. I'm worried about it, though. So until I see him have success without Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to move him up any higher. I think if the Packers struggle this year, you might see me drop LaFleur down below the top 20, and you may see LaFleur on the hot seat. Because if LaFleur can only win with Aaron Rodgers, that doesn't make him a good coach. That makes him a coach who was very lucky to have a good quarterback. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, that's the 4th straight offensive guy, and now we reach another offensive guy in Zac Taylor. So who's Zac Taylor? 28-36-1. He has a losing record this year, but that 5-2 playoff record is what it really matters because he took the Bengals to a Super Bowl. Was it really him or was it Joe Burrow? I'm not sure. I did drop him by 1 spot. I'm at 15. He goes down to 16. But again, so why does he drop by a spot? Simply because I'm just not sure if it's him or Joe Burrow. I need to see him win some games without Joe Burrow. So far, he hasn't done that. At number 15, right ahead of Zac Taylor is Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski also dropping by 4, but he's still ahead of Zac Taylor. Again, you're going to say, why is Kevin Stefanski ahead of Zac Taylor? First off, look at the record. He has a winning record. Zac Taylor, losing record, okay? Also, Stefanski only made the playoffs once, but he did it with the Cleveland Browns, a team that has historically been so bad that they haven't even sniffed the playoffs in decades. He also was the coach of the year. Zac Taylor's never won that award, and this is the kicker. In their 3 years of coaching against each other, Kevin Stefanski is 5-1 against Zac Taylor. That tells you something. It tells you that the Cleveland Browns have the Bengals' number, or more importantly, Stefanski has Zac Taylor's number. So until Zac Taylor and the Bengals can consistently show that they can beat the Browns, I think Stefanski is going to be a better coach. But we'll see how it all shapes out. I want to see how it looks with Deshaun Watson. I think the Cleveland Browns can be very good this year. Number 14, I have Ron Rivera. He drops by 6 spots. I think he's just starting to get a little bit outdated. Here's a guy who is a defensive guy. This is the first defensive guy that we've seen since number 21. He's getting a little bit old. I think his system's a little outdated. He does have a career winning record, 98, 90-2, so he's going to hit 100 wins this year. That's pretty cool. But it's been a while. He's been in the league for 12 years as a head coach, 5 playoff appearances, 3-5. The only year he really won playoff games was that year he went to the Super Bowl, and they obviously lost that. But what he does have is 2 Coach of the Year awards and a winning record and an extensive time. And I will say, the Commanders, all 3 years he's been their coach, they have performed better than I thought they would before, because I think he takes teams with not very much talent and he makes them play well. So Ron Rivera, he was in my top 10 last year. He's out of the top 10 this year, but he could make it back if the Commanders going a little run this year. Number 13, Sean McDermott and the Bills. Look, he's down by 3. Here's another defensive guy, actually. Panthers, Eagles defensive coordinator. Another guy who has won Coach of the Year. He won it last year. So you're telling me last year's Coach of the Year and you dropped him by 3? Hey, look at that record. A winning record, 4 playoff wins in 5 appearances. Why is Sean McDermott so low? Let me tell you why he is so low. First off, no quarterback and coach combination has won a Super Bowl together if they didn't do it in their first 5 seasons. Sean McDermott and Josh Allen have now been through 5 seasons, so therefore, by that rule, they cannot win the Super Bowl together. That's too bad. Also, again, the system feels a bit outdated. He's a defensive guy in an offensive-minded league. I worry about his ability to elevate Josh Allen because as soon as Brian Daboll left the Bills, Josh Allen went back to not being very good at quarterback. Not that he wasn't good last year, but he made a lot of turnovers last year. So I'm interested to see if Sean McDermott can help kind of coach him up this year. Number 12, Nick Sirianni. He made it to the Super Bowl in his second season as the Eagles coach. 23-11, great record, 2 playoff wins. He's gonna be in the top 10 soon. I couldn't find room for him in the top 10 right now because there are some seriously legendary coaches. But I like what I see in Nick Sirianni. He moves up 6 spots from last year. So yeah, big fan of Nick Sirianni. And again, there's another offensive guy, and then another OC, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson in his second season with the Jags. I had him at 14. He moves up by 3. I think he could easily make it back into the top 10. The reason I will say, just the fact he was fired from the Eagles still doesn't sit well with me, but he has a career-winning record. He has 5-3 record in the playoffs in 4 appearances. He beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. That has to count for something. And he was a 10-year NFL quarterback veteran as well. And he knows how to work with quarterbacks, especially with Trevor Lawrence, who's his guy. I'm obviously super high on the Jags, and if the Jags even come close to what I believe they're going to do this year, Doug Peterson will be a top 5 coach most likely in the NFL. Now, we'll see what he can do. All right, so in those past 10, 2 defense, 8 offense. So that's interesting, right? First, the low 12, 7 defense, 5 offense. Next 10, 8 offense, 2 defense. The next 10 are like, starting with Mike Vrabel at number 10. He dropped by 3 spots, still in the top 10, but he's at risk of falling out of it. I've always been impressed with the way he's able to coach the Titans up despite Ryan Tannehill's mediocre play, and despite just being a very mediocre team in general. Look at that, 48-34. That's a good record in 6 years. 2 playoff wins for a team that probably really hasn't deserved any. He obviously was a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker with the New England Patriots, won a Super Bowl with them, and he was the 2021 Coach of the Year. So Mike Vrabel, I think, is a good coach. I want to see the Titans improve, though. If the Titans have another losing season, he's going to be out of the top 10. You've got to keep showing me that you can win until you can. Also, worthy of note, Vrabel, Tannehill, this is their 5th year as well. So if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, which they won't, but if they don't, when they don't, they can't win it again. So they're going to have to start looking for a new quarterback, I guess. Number 9 is the Seattle Seahawks. My guy, Pete Carroll, at number 9. He moves up by 4 spots after surprising the entire league by leading the Seahawks to the playoffs with Geno Smith at quarterback. This is a guy who, he's the oldest coach in the NFL, 72 years old, 14 seasons, winning record. He has 11-11 record in the playoffs. He has won a Super Bowl as well as lost a Super Bowl, and he's won a national championship. Still the only coach in, I believe, the history of the sport to do that. He has an Assistant Coach of the Year award. He was the USC head coach for 9 years, New England, New York Jets. Great defensive guy. And so there you go, 2 defensive minds now to start this off. He is best with young players, young teams, and that is exactly what the Seahawks are. They are a team full of young and very much talented guys. I love the Seattle Seahawks this year, and I love Pete Carroll. I think he can continue to climb this up. Number 8, people will laugh, Mike McCarthy. Look, Mike McCarthy. Look at the record: 155, 97-2, 11-10. He has a winning record in the playoffs. He has won a Super Bowl. He, I believe, only had 1 or maybe 2 losing seasons in his career as a coach. He was with Green Bay for 13 years. Coached Aaron Rodgers his whole life. He is one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game. Now, why does he struggle? He struggles with the clock. Yes, obviously, but he has elevated Dak Prescott, a quarterback who a lot of people once viewed as mediocre and once viewed as overrated. Now Dak Prescott is viewed as a top 2 quarterback in the NFC. So Mike McCarthy has elevated his player to a point where I think he deserves some recognition. I think he's a top 10 coach in the league. But Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, they are the ones that beat him in the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan is a very good coach. He is entering his 7th season, still only 44, 52-46. The record is not great, but you have to remember he's been starting guys like C.J. Beathard, Nick Mullins, He's just had the rotating curve of quarterbacks throughout his time with the 49ers, and he still managed to have winning records. Also, the look at the playoffs. 6-3 in the playoffs. That's really good. Super Bowl loss. He also took the Falcons as an offensive coordinator to the Super Bowl and won the Assistant Coach of the Year that year. Also was the Kirk Cousins coach in Washington. I think he's very good. I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the league. And again, him and Pete Carroll, those 49ers Seahawks games are always so intense, so close. But the coach who I still believe is the best in the NFC West despite last season, number 6, Sean McVay. Look, he does drop by 2 spots. Last year the Rams weren't great, but Sean McVay, he is still the youngest coach in the league, and it's now his 7th season in the league. That is incredible. It just goes to show how brilliant and how young he was. 7-3 in the playoffs, 60-38 overall. He won that Super Bowl, also lost the Super Bowl. He won Coach of the Year in 2017 at a time when he was, I believe, 32 years old. Sean McVay's legit, and the Rams still are able to beat the 49ers every single year. I believe he has a winning record against Kyle Shanahan. I might be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive he does. So Sean McVay, he's still the best in the West. I believe it. And he might take a break sometime. He might come back to the game, similar to the guy at number 5, Sean Payton. Sean Payton, one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game, possibly the most brilliant, besides our number 1 coach. Sean Payton, 152-89. That is an incredible record. 9-8 in the playoffs. He has won a Super Bowl, 2-time Coach of the Year, and obviously with the Saints for 15 years. This is his first year in Denver. I had him at 5th on my rankings in 2021. Obviously, he's new, so last year he was not on the rankings. He's back at 5, where he was in his last season with the Saints. So at this point, he can either go down, or he could possibly go up, depending on how it looks with the Saints, how it looks with Russell Wilson. Number 4, it's John Harbaugh and the Ravens. Look, John Harbaugh gets a lot of crap, but he is a damn good coach. 11-9 in the playoffs, won a Super Bowl, 2019 Coach of the Year with Lamar Jackson. And again, this is a very, very smart football individual. He's good on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. He comes from a special teams background. 61 years old in his 16th season. He's one of the oldest coaches and most long-term coaches in the NFL. He was 5th last year. I have him up to 4 this year because he took Tyler Huntley to the playoffs, and the Ravens with Tyler Huntley were a fumble away from winning that game against the Bengals. But number 3, I have to do it. Mike Tomlin. Number 3, look, he has never had a losing season. That is obviously the most impressive feat, I believe, out of any coach. Very good, very smart defensive head coach. 8-9 in the playoffs, but he did win a Super Bowl title. 163, 93, and 2. So he has 2 ties, and he's still very young. Look at that, 17 years, and he's only 51. So he has been in the league for longer than Harbaugh, and he's 10 years younger. That is impressive. He's going to be around for a very, very long time, and he continues to take mediocre Steelers teams and elevate them to have winning records. He had a winning record with legitimately Devlin Hodges as a starting quarterback. That's incredible. Last year with Trubisky for half the season, Kenny Pickett for half the season, and he still had a winning record. So the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, good football team. Number 2, and this is what's interesting. Bill Belichick was at number 1 last year. I've demoted him to number 2. I'm sure you guys all can figure out who number 1 is going to be. The record, obviously. The playoffs, obviously. 6-time Super Bowl champion. He's going to go down as the greatest coach in NFL history. 6-3 in the Super Bowl, 3-time Coach of the Year. But I think Bill is a little bit old, and I believe that the title for best coach has now gone to Andy Reid of the Chiefs. Look, why is Andy Reid better? Number 1, he's currently coaching the best player in the NFL. Number 2, he keeps his teams more updated. He keeps his teams more fresh. Number 3, he's now won 2 Super Bowls in the same time span. Bill Belichick has won 0 Super Bowls. So the last 2 of those coaches has been to Reid. Reid also 3-time Coach of the Year. So they both have won Coach of the Year 3 times. I think Andy Reid's better. Look, the record is obviously not there, but he has less losses, and obviously the playoff record, 23 seasons, not nearly as good. But I think Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL right now because he is the guy who's coaching the best team. His team feels a lot less outdated. Bill Belichick's system is starting to feel outdated. I'm keeping it 2 because he's still Bill Belichick. He's still a legend. But if the Patriots continue to stumble, you might see Bill Belichick fall further down this list. Andy Reid at number 1. Right now, I believe he is the number 1 coach in the NFL. So, what's interesting about this? Top 10 coaches: offense, defense, special teams, offense, 2-2, offense, defense. So 5 offense, 4 defense, 1 special teams. Your total amount: 13 defensive coaches, 18 offensive coaches, 1 special teams coach. So offense is currently dominating. They're especially dominating the top of the leaderboard, which I think it goes to show that this is an offensive sport. They once said defense wins championships. I'm not so sure if that is true. The Chiefs are starting to prove that wrong. There you go, guys. That's my top 32 coaches. Every single coach in the NFL has been ranked. I'll go back through this coaching list at the end of the season. We'll see what changes and see which guys get fired, who's in the hot seat, who's going to get hired next year. Yeah, that's it for you guys. Let me know, guys. Like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? Am I forgetting about anybody? Let me know down below in the comments. We'd love to hear. We'd love to interact. Thank you guys for watching this, the NW Sportscast on our NFL Predictions Week. Let's go.